Call to order. The salute flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so the first agenda is that we have everybody here this evening. And now we're going on to the MS 27 and the warrant articles with Matt.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for signing it. I'm just going to quickly go through it. Basically, if you have your electronic copy, pages 2 through 4 deal with the Article 3, which is the operating budget. And what it does is the MS 27 gives notice to the taxpayers, because we have to post this, the financial impact of all the warrant articles. Okay, so if you start in the left-hand column, it is the actual expenditures for 2021. The next column over to the right would be appropriations for this current fiscal year. The next one over are the school board's approved appropriations. And then over 2 more are going to be the budget committee's appropriations. Okay. The next group of pages, which is page 5, deal with the warrant articles, which are 6, 8, and 9 that deal with the capital reserve funds and the expendable trust funds. And I'll be going over those a little later. The following page, page 6, deals with the Article 4, which is the support staff collective bargaining agreement. And then page 7 and 8 deal with the estimated revenues that go into calculating, or they estimate the revenues for next year and are the basis for calculating your tax rate. Page 9 is just a summary of all the prior pages. And then finally, page 10 is it calculates that 10% rule for deliberative session. Okay. And looking for an approval of the MS 27.
Move that we approve it. Oh, Cheryl, you did?
Cheryl?
It's a question. Is the budget committee going to vote on the budget before we sign this? Oh, well, we've already signed it, but
We've already
Is
voted.
We've already voted on the budget.
we did?
Yeah,
7-0.
When?
3 weeks ago.
I think she's meaning the warrant articles.
After the public hearing, we were supposed to come together and decide whether or not we wanted to.
We voted
it
to
at-
recommend the budget.
Okay, but after the public hearing, I mean, Annie specifically asked, don't vote after that meeting because I want to be here to vote. So do we have to either reaffirm our vote or decide that what we heard from the public, we wanted to change something?
I think
We're voting.
we vote after the deliberative in
Yes.
case there are any changes. We affirm whatever
Yeah.
the result of that final first deliberative session is.
No, I disagree. I think Cheryl is absolutely 100% correct about this, that we have a vote to advance the budget, our proposed budget, to the public hearing. Then after the public hearing, we have a vote on whether we're going to change the budget or not, or we're going to recommend it as it is. And
Right.
that's the one that goes on the warrant article. Actually, that goes to the deliberative. Then after the deliberative, if there's a change, we make another vote. But we also recommend it to the school board. I mean, right now, we worked with a budget which they recommended to us.
Yep.
We decided to recommend it to the public.
Yes.
And now we're going to recommend it to the school board so they can decide what to do with it too.
Do you want to go first?
No, I didn't have anything.
Yeah. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the budget that we voted on didn't include what was decided last night. So I don't know if we need to discuss those items.
Doesn't change the budget.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay. How? Just so I know.
So
I had a list of stuff that
It-
was asked for that we never discussed because pre-K wasn't decided upon. Like the money for the walls, vice principal salary, additional hall aides, So is that factored in the budget somewhere?
Well, I,
So the vice principal's salary is going to be coming from the special education coordinator, I believe. It's for somebody from special ed at DJ Bakey. That position will be moved because there'll be a lower enrollment at Bakey, and that position is going to be going up there. So that's where that money is coming from.
And how much is that?
I don't know.
Okay, are you talking about the grade 3-6 move?
Yeah.
Okay, that's after, okay, we have not modified the budget for that move. Basically, the budget, let me kind of go through the process of the budget, okay?
Sure.
So basically, the superintendent recommends a budget to the school board deliberates and then comes up with their approved budget. It comes to the budget committee then deliberates on that budget. They approve that budget. You've already approved that budget, okay? We're not going to make any more changes from it. We need to move forward with it. If we don't go through this process tonight, the only solution to fix it is to go before the New Hampshire legislature. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
basically,
I still don't understand though.
I-
And
Okay.
maybe it's just
We
me.
table it till after, maybe we'll get through this stuff. and
Yeah,
then-
okay, that's fine. I just want to make
Okay.
sure I leave with an understanding.
so basically what's going to happen is if there's going to be movement of personnel within the budget, I'm going to have to go before the finance committee and ask them to transfer the funds. Okay, but we're not going to change the budget mid-process because of that vote that occurred last night.
Yeah, no, okay. So I guess we can continue and we can circle back to it. I just want to make sure when I leave, I have an understanding of how the costs are going to be covered.
Okay, so the costs are going to be covered by just transferring positions. It's not going to be we're not going to be asking for more additional funds from the taxpayers. So it would be
So can I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead, Vanessa.
While we're talking about it. So this will be directed towards Moira. What is the cost for the changes that you guys voted on last night? Like if you wrap it up and put a dollar amount on it? Well, I'm asking Moira because she voted on it. So I kind of wanted to see if you knew the answer.
Well, my understanding is, as I said, for the position of the school, it's as Matt said, it's a transfer
Well-
of funds from one to the other.
But there's additional cost to transition the position to a vice principal. And then there was the cost of a wall.
Bathrooms.
Yeah, well, bathrooms was optional, I think. There was
I don't think
hall
that that-
monitors, the wall, and there were costs associated with it because that,
One,
I'm gonna let Matt answer. I'm gonna let Matt answer that.
okay. So for me, the major cost that I see about this transition is going to be moving a wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
We already own the door because it's existing right now. All we're going to do is we're going to create a new wall. We're going to demo the old wall, move the door down the hallway and reinstall it. Okay. The last time we did it, it was $2,600 for that.
how much?
$2,600.
okay.
That include the purchase price of the door. Okay. So to put up that wall is going to be less than $2,600.
That's good.
Then other costs would be physically moving the teachers' supplies and other items that they have that they use for teaching the classes.
Yeah.
We're not going to be moving the furniture. We're just going to be moving all the little pieces.
Okay.
So that's going to be moved with our facility staff.
Mm.
So the amount of effort that's going to go into that is not significant.
Okay.
The only thing that may be significant at that point is then we have to juggle around the classrooms within each of the elementary schools. But we do that anyways. We empty out all the furniture in the hallway so we can strip and wax the floors.
Yeah.
And then we can just move stuff around. So I think logistically, this particular move is not a heavy lift
Okay.
and it's not going to cost that much money.
Do we know what the difference in the salary is between the two positions?
What were the two positions that you said?
So they were transitioning, what was it more? They were transitioning a position from,
vice president.
And I
Special
don't,
ed
I-
coordinator? Yeah.
Special ed coordinator.
It
it was
to
a
vice
special
vice
ed
principal.
coordinator to the vice principal. I'm not sure how they come up with an amount of a position. I don't know how that's done. Because I think if you hire somebody anyways, I don't
Okay.
think it's necessarily a set in stone cost because you don't know what step or whatnot you're hiring somebody at. So I don't know if there's an actual, my understanding is kind of swapping dollars, but it's all in a pool of funds.
Okay. Now, I may get a little portion of this incorrect. There are some, from what I am hearing, there is a position that we're going to be creating that's going to be grant funded that we're going to also steer towards managing the principalship. Okay. And that's going to be dealing with more of the emotional side of the students, because we have a grant that deals with the what's the word? I'm at a
Yeah,
loss.
like the mental health. Yeah, I remember that position. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And then that person's going to come in and help out with more of the discipline problems, because it's really more in that side of their need.
Yeah,
okay?
but Tom said there was a vice principal position that was transitioning. Like it was very specific. It was vice principal.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Right.
the one
I
that
think-
I'm talking about. That
Yeah.
is coming
Of
from Bakey.
guidance
The special ed coordinator
and
or
guidance.
special ed something from
Yes.
Bakey is going, that the funds from that are going to move over.
So how much is that person paid right now, a special ed coordinator at Bakey?
I can look that up.
I
Honestly,
think it would be good to look up and to tell us, because we know approximately how much vice principals get paid in the district. Let's just see if we're talking about a big price difference.
okay. It's going to take effort.
I'm not sure what we're trying to accomplish here. There's already, kind of as Matt said, we've already decided on that budget. Are we trying to change what we've done because of a decision that was made last night?
No, I think look, maybe it's me and I'm dumb. And it won't be the first time somebody's called me, but I'm looking at the presentation that Tom presented, okay? The must list that was presented on November 3rd. Grade 3 to 6 transition for moving costs and walls, $150,000.
Yeah.
We didn't budget for that. So that's my question. Like, where is the money coming from?
It would have to come from somewhere else in the program.
Where?
So basically, it would have to come from not funding, maybe a couple positions for a period of time. Okay.
Yes.
See, part of the problem of managing a budget like this is we can't just make people materialize and apply for positions. So for example, we had 10 para positions that we had unfilled, and we asked the school board to convert those into teachers' positions because it was more likely that we would be hiring teachers. Well, it's taken over a month to onboard those teachers. They are applying, but we're not getting any para professionals simply because we're not offering enough money for those positions.
Mhm.
Okay, so we don't fill all of our positions all the time.
Get that.
Yeah,
So if the money's spent on a wall and we have an applicant for a position, we can't hire him because we spent the money on the wall?
Now, we almost always have open positions.
Understood.
Okay,
Like, look, if it was $2,000, like you're saying, maybe this number's wrong. Maybe you can tell me that. But if it was $2,000 or whatever number you said for the wall, it wouldn't be an issue, right? $2,000 is pretty easy to find.
yes.
150K, it's a little big one.
Yeah. So 150,000 included, in my understanding, is it included the potential of putting in a bathroom upstairs.
no, because that was separate. That
says.
was 200,000.
That's not
So-
what it says.
Convert, yeah.
It's the amount isn't going to be. From what I'm seeing, it's not going to be 150,000. It's actually going to be a light lift. And I'm sure Tom is watching this right now and he's going, no.
Look, yeah, and I don't think I don't think the questions are, the decision made last night was the decision that was made last night. Like, we decided on a budget prior to that decision. And
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying, though. I don't
But-
think we can go and change this after the public hearing.
No, but we want to understand where it's coming from
Yeah,
because now it's
right.
affecting our existing budget.
Yeah.
So essentially that money is being spent without being budgeted for, which means it has to come out of the existing budget because it's being pushed into the
Okay.
budget that we've already decided.
So this is the second time, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt everybody. Just a second, Cheryl. This is the second time we've had discussion about funds being removed from certain areas and utilized to do something else. I believe one of them was the funding for the buses, for the transportation for the students, the athletic students. Wasn't that an issue as well?
Well,
That
we,
we're gonna
I mean,
find
we-
it somehow?
okay. I can give you a most recent example. We have an issue with Chase Field where the baseball field there is unsafe. And if a student actually overran one of the baselines, they would trip over the edge of the grass because it's up about 3 inches.
Yeah.
And then there's an immediate drop off because they have regraded the field so many times it actually raised the baselines so that it's a trip hazard, and we were
Okay.
worried about kids breaking their legs. So we actually had to do a budget transfer to transfer monies from one line item to another to cover the cost of that. Now, those are transfers that can be approved that's within the power of the school board to do that. And we asked for permission from the school board to do that, okay?
Yep.
And we would have to find it from within our programs.
Okay, so now we're adding, my take on this is we're moving one resource from Bakey, and that is going to Memorial with a slight increase in salary to be determined.
To the middle school.
To the middle
The middle
school.
school.
I think it's from
Right
Memorial
now,
to
the middle school does
from-
not have an assistant
No,
principal.
they're going from Bakey to Memorial, right?
No, they're
No.
taking a guidance counselor from, well, there's, no,
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
it was
it's
the special ed assistant that's partnered with the vice principal of Bakey is going to Memorial.
This part of it's fuzzy for me because I'm not actually involved in that actual part. It's only from what I'm hearing in the other group that are dealing with it. So it is my understanding that there are 2 people coming from Bakey, and that we're going to be putting in an assistant principal, but that assistant principal is also going to be partially grant funded as part of this grant that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
I think
May I
Cheryl-
make a
Cheryl was,
Oh,
Cheryl was
Cheryl's
up first.
first, okay.
Sorry, Cheryl. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, this was not my question.
It snowballed.
My question was, and we got into a big discussion in our last meeting because Annie said, I'm not going to be at the public hearing.
Right.
What we need to do after the public hearing is to say whether what we heard from the public has changed our view of whether or not we want to approve the budget that was presented or reaffirm it. But that, I believe that
So-
vote has to be taken.
Hmm.
So I was just asking that we need to do that before we're signing this. My suspicion is we're not going to change it. I'm just going by what the process, I believe the process is.
Okay. So,
I,
Annie,
I had one question, one comment on something that Matt said about partially grant funding a vice principal. One of the things that was specifically asked for by the budget committee and agreed to by Tom in public was that we would not be using grants to create positions that we would then need to fund in the future. So I got a problem with that statement.
Okay, let's just correct this. This person's being hired for a social worker position, and they're being hired to deal with emotional needs of the students. And this is a grant that we've been tasked to do for over a 4-year period. Okay, it's just that person has a special set of skill set that can help out in dealing with the emotional aspects of some of the disciplinary issues that would help out in the middle school. Okay, so it would relieve a lot of the burden out of the middle school. Does that make it clear?
It
you
it
have to
really
understand-
doesn't, because you referred to it as the vice principal, but partially
know.
grant funded, so I want.
That's a mistake. That position is not a principal, a vice principal position. It's a counselor position, okay? But they're taking on some of the responsibilities that deal with the, you have to understand with some of the, it's my understanding that with some of the disciplinary issues, there are emotional issues that are underlying it,
Mhm.
okay? And that if we can address those emotional issues with counselors, then it takes a burden off of the staff in the
So-
principal's office.
So I'd like to understand the plan is to have a vice principal at the middle school and a counselor who's partially funded by grant money. Is that what you're saying? And where's the vice principal coming from? And
But-
where's this counselor coming from?
Let me be more clear,
Mhm.
okay? One of the things I said previously is I'm not directly involved in those actual discussions, so the actual positions that are being made are not clear to me. So I'm only speaking about like what I'm hearing more in the background, okay? So I don't want to even say that it's accurate.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're not the right person to say. Maura, do you know the answer to that?
I feel like, you know what, last night was a pretty difficult vote, and I feel like anything I say right now is going to be the wrong answer. I think that there's a lot of details that are still to be worked out. I think that this is a question, if you really want these very specific questions, I'm not prepared to answer them. I think that we should reach out to Tom and ask Tom.
Okay.
I'm not going to step into this.
No, I can accept that. That's fine. No.
Okay,
I-
so, well, we're burying this now. We don't have any subject matter experts here to answer that question.
Yeah.
We still have not answered Cheryl's original question, which is, are we going to be voting on the budget that was recommended and the warrant articles this evening? Yes, we will be. Okay, so if we had a vote previously, we will revote again. And then we will vote on the warrant articles. So that's Cheryl's question cleared up. Now, on further. Matt, oh, sorry, Annie.
Just-
Okay,
Just point of order, Cheryl did point out that for us to approve the MS-27, we probably should vote on the budget first.
yes.
Yes, thank
And,
you.
and vote on, the warrant articles are not ours. We just simply go on the ballot for those. But I think for the budget, we need to vote on it. And I'd like to make a motion,
Which is?
which is that we approve the budget that we presented at the public hearing unaltered at 37, whatever it is.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Second,
Read it.
it's done. It's seconded.
Okay.
Votes?
Aye. You don't
Oh.
even, you can just
Oh,
do,
just-
yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Can I abstain? I can, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, I think I like to do that.
Okay, if you want to abstain, but what we're saying is the budget committee is recommending the budget that we put forward during the public hearing.
I understand.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
So what, we should probably go person by person then, if someone's gonna,
Sure. So Rick is abstained. Annie,
Aye.
Maura? I mean.
Oh,
Vanessa,
I was
sorry.
like, what? Looked over at Maura.
Aye. Cheryl?
aye.
Maura?
Aye.
All right.
Abstain.
So
There you go.
we have one abstained. That's fine. It's perfectly
You didn't
fine.
ask me, but I'll say aye.
Mary.
I thought I did, you guys. All right, I'm sorry.
I
Christine?
blinked
Aye.
twice. Everybody looks the
Mary.
same with the mask on. Aye.
All right. I thought I had gotten that out and then, no, they abstained. All right, okay. That's put it down.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve the MS-27.
That's based on our,
That's based on our budget that we, because that's what's in the MS-27 as it's
Yes.
been presented to us.
okay,
I'll second the motion.
all right.
Aye.
Aye.
Rick?
I signed it, so I'll have to say aye.
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 Cheryl?
Aye.
All right. You ready for the warrant articles?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So which ones do you want? I'm sorry, because I was trying to pull it up as you were talking earlier.
The warrant articles.
Yeah.
I was going to go over all of them.
Oh, good. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
And will you be answering the questions as you go along each one?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
You're gonna answer her questions as you read them, not all at the end, right?
I can do either way.
Why don't we go through the go through the warrant article and then you answer the questions that
Okay,
she
sure.
has
Pertaining
sent
to
in.
that warrant article.
Yes, Rick.
We're only voting to recommend on articles that have funds, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Monetary impact.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I actually have the warrant right here. I'm going to actually update it after your votes tonight. So the first article deals with annually electing all your district officers.
We
Okay.
don't even need that. Nope.
Yeah.
No
Sorry,
money
I know.
impact.
I'm just trying to explain all. Do you want me to go through each of the ones or?
No, just
Just
the
the
ones.
ones
that-
with
money.
monetary impact.
Okay, so skipping to Article 3, that is the operating budget. That's the one where we're gonna have the two pieces where the first one is the proposed amount is 37,179,463, and the default is $37,232,635. Now, generally, the proposed operating budget is for the general fund, food service, and title grants. Okay, funds that we receive outside of the school year's budget process are called unanticipated funds and voted on by the school board directly. And the reason why, this is one of Cheryl's questions, the reason why I brought this in here is because to distinguish what gets voted on by the taxpayers and what is not, okay? Now, so Article 4, moving on to that one, this one here is a support staff collective bargaining agreement. This is an agreement negotiated between the school board and the support staff union. Support staff union includes paraprofessionals, speech pathologists, secretaries, and receptionists. Okay. Now, this article is where the taxpayers are going to be ratifying the cost items of this agreement. The total amount for year one is $159,890. Year two is $96,809. Year three is $94,544. Now, the salary schedule was envisioned with a new pay range, and there are increases of 2% per year on the pay range for people that are off scale, or it's 2% for the pay range for each subsequent years, and then also 2% for those people that are off the scale.
When you say off the scale, you
yeah.
mean
Yeah.
maxed
So
out?
under the current agreement, as they go down the scale, there's no stop to that scale. So each subsequent year, they can just keep on going, 3%, 3%, and not be on the scale anymore. And we just call them off scale.
I
Okay.
still don't
Matt?
understand. I'm sorry.
Did you get my question that I had asked about seeing the matrix of the pay? I
See,
had sent that in as a question.
no, I did not see that.
Well,
I can pull up the matrix. Let me read
voting on
these.
things I don't know what they.
Let me read all of these, and then
You know
I'll,
what? I wanted to see it, but if you just tell us what the beginning is,
sure.
and then if you would repeat again what the difference is, and are there any steps that are involved in this? Or is it just years of experience?
No, it doesn't go necessarily based upon years of experience, because what happened is it was a 13-step schedule and it was consolidated into a 10-step schedule. Okay. Now, if a person was here, say they were hired under step 1 and after on the 14th year, they would fall off the schedule under the original schedule. On this new schedule, they're actually going to be, let me go into a step schedule here. The new schedule, they would go only up to step 10 and they would stay at step 10. On the 11th year, they would get a stipend. Okay. And so every year of the contract, the salary schedule gets increased by 2%. So they would get the 2% increase, but they would remain at step 10. Okay. And they would also get that stipend.
How much is the stipend?
It depends upon the different categories. So the beginning amounts for like speech pathologist is $25.28, and it goes up to $33.74, and it has a top of tier amount of $1,200. Paraeducator starts at $15.25, goes up to $19.91, and has a top of tier of $1,200. So typically, most of them are $1,200. Secretaries are $1,500 and secretaries year-round are $1,750 for the top of tier. Now, the para-educators are broken up between their different education levels. So if they have a bachelor's degree or associate's degree or a master's degree. And so the lowest amount there is $15.50 for an associate's degree para. However, the highest amount someone could earn as a para would be one that has a master's degree, and that's $21.
$41?
21.
20, okay. I
Okay.
just wanted to be sure.
You're
I
gonna
heard you.
sticker shock there, huh?
Yeah, I was like, oh, we want to pay them better, but,
Okay. The receptionist slash secretary, it starts at $14.75 and goes to $20.51. Secretary starts at $15.96 and goes to $21.36. And the year-round secretary starts at $17.42 and goes up to $23.45.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. Now, did they also gave some on, there was a decrease in the percentage of
Health insurance.
district
Yes.
contribution to health?
Yes.
86
So
or something?
Yeah.
the district's contribution to the health insurance changed from 88% to 86%.
Okay,
All right. I'm going to move on to Article 6.
So are
Well,
you
no-
not going to answer all the questions
I
about
thought it was
that
at
one
the
right
end,
now?
but I can answer one of your questions, I think. So one of the questions that was raised before is why in the first year the amount is so high and the subsequent 2 years is significantly lower. So actually, the first year is going to be the year of the biggest amount of change. Okay, so the salary schedule was essentially reinvented. So what you're seeing is a huge jump into the new schedule. Okay, and then every year after that, that schedule only changes by 2%. Okay, so you'll see that if you were to actually compare employees from one schedule to another, they're all going to get more than 3% to get onto the new schedule. Okay, some of them are going to be much higher.
it's 2% cost of living, right? But there's also a step. How much, what's the average step increase?
The step increases there. You have to understand the way the schedule is built. The step increases are higher at the lower part of the scale because essentially the employees have less experience. As they gain more experience faster in the earlier years, so their raise is a little bit higher. As
Okay.
they go into the out years, the raises are lower. So the steps range a low of, and I'm going to try to pick a low one. Let's see, 2.51%, and the highest is 4.16%.
4 point, what was it?
4.16.
Thank you.
2 point, what was it? For
2.53.
5.3. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Before you go on to the next one, I'd like us to vote on as they go one by one. Is that okay?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, considering we don't want to have to go, which one was that one
I
again?
have to
Yeah.
read it again.
This one here was Article 4 that deals with the support staff collective bargaining agreement. And essentially what it's doing is it's dealing with the cost items of that agreement. And the first year is $159,890, second year is $96,809, third year is $94,544.
Okay. I make a motion to approve. Is that-
Second.
Okay. Christine?
Aye.
Rick?
Yes.
Annie?
I enthusiastically say aye.
I was going to say absolutely yes.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
So, just, I'm looking at the draft that you sent out, and it says recommended by the budget committee in favor 7.
Yeah, that was a
So
mistake.
we're gonna fix that,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, I just fixed it.
Because I think, are there 8 of us here?
Yeah, and we hadn't voted yet, so.
Yeah, so-
It was a placeholder.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was an assumptive close.
Yes.
All right. Let's see, Article 6. This is the unanticipated utility costs, and it's an expendable trust fund that operates just like a capital reserve fund. So basically, what this is, when we built the budget, I shaved off a portion of the utility costs because what I wanted to do is make it so that we're budgeting for a top amount and make it so that it is an estimated, not an estimatable number, but a predictable number for the budget committee and the school board and taxpayers. Now, if the actual cost comes in higher than that, then I'm going to come and withdraw funds from this fund to cover the budget. Okay. So if I don't dip into the fund, then next year I can bring the budget back down again and use a low estimate again and put the risk back onto this fund. Okay. So let's see if there's anything else in here. So this is like a non-lapsing fund, and it can be spent at the discretion of the school board. And so if we do use the funds, then I'm going to be coming before the school board to add it to a warrant article to replenish it back into the fund. So then what I'm doing is I'm taking we had to withdraw the money this year out of the fund, then you would see a warrant article, not this March, but the following March, so we can kind of spread the costs out over a couple of years. Okay.
But this warrant article is just to establish it, not to fund it.
Well, it does two things. It establishes it,
Yes.
okay, and it funds it for $75,000. Okay, and the funds are going to be coming from surplus fund balance at year end. Okay.
I'll wait till.
So this was a question I had asked. Surplus fund, unassigned fund, unexpended fund, is that all the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, so why are different terms being used? It's
Okay, so
confusing. Is there something special about certain ones?
okay, sometimes I throw out the terms interchangeably because I usually can cast a net and reach a lot of different people. Okay, a lot of people understand the terminology of surplus fund or surplus funds. Those are the funds that are unspent at year end. There's an old terminology in governmental accounting standards, and that is the unexpended funds. And then finally, the new terminology is unassigned funds. Okay, and I will use those three terms interchangeably. All of these funds are the funds that are your it's essentially your net income at year end. This is the amount of money that we have to return back to the taxpayers to reduce the tax rate. Okay.
The towns.
Well, we don't actually physically write a check to the town.
Yeah.
What we do is we actually we budget for a net income loss.
So I just have a couple questions
right.
real quick. What is the estimated fund for that? I know you've probably said it a million times and I apologize. The June 30th fund estimate roughly?
For this year, right now, I don't have an estimate, a public estimate.
What was it?
I haven't, oh, no, there is no, what was it for last year?
Yeah.
Last year
That's
was
because of
over,
COVID, right?
yeah, let's see, you have a slide on it.
It's like
Yeah.
1.9 or
It's
something.
close to
Yeah,
two
it's, I
million.
know
It
it's
was,
not,
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be that.
2021 was 2.2 mil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The year prior to that was 2.3.
yes,
And then back in 2018 to 19 was 913,000.
yeah.
17 to 18 was 1.5. And then 16 to 17 was 1.1.
But you have no estimate as to where you, like no ballpark figure as to where you think it's going to be in 5 months?
Well, there's two pieces that I do know about right now that I can probably talk about very easily. The first one is that because of the health insurance hasn't been used that much, we received a return of our health insurance premiums of over $400,000. Okay, that's not money that I'm authorized to spend. If I can go before the school board and ask them to allow me to spend it, and then I can. but I haven't done that. So right now that's anticipated to be turned back to the taxpayers. So there's $400,000. Okay. There's another part of this too. It's $545,000, and that's the 2.5% contingency fund. Now, this is kind of like a confusing thing that I have to explain to people. What it is, it's 2.5% of the amount of money that we tax on the local tax rate. So if you look at your tax bill, there's a local portion of education, and then there's a state portion of your education. So I can retain 2.5% of that local portion. And it equated last year to $545,000. Our power to retain it is only for one fiscal year. So in June, we either release it back to the taxpayers, or I can have the school board reauthorize it. And I've calculated it for next year, and it's about $537,000. Okay, so in total between those two, it's over $900,000 if the school board doesn't reauthorize that 2.5% contingency.
Andy?
I'd just like to say that the 545,000 was already included in our estimate of the tax impact, but this 400,000 is a new number.
Yeah.
And we don't know, I mean, typically we have, I mean, based on past experience, typically we've got about 3% in unexpended funds at year end. And I know that, you know, we're going to have some use of it.
Yeah, I mean, because if I remember correctly, this couple members of the school board said they would look at those funds to repair the track, right? Which was a concern, especially, you know, since you're gonna have more kids here. The auditorium was a concern, right? So it's what's 128.76. I still don't understand where the 150 is coming from. So I come up with $429,000
Yeah.
for just those three items.
Yes. So I call those Tom's big three, and Tom's laughing right now at the TV. So let's talk about those. The running track would probably come from a transfer appropriation that we would ask the school board to do at year end. Okay. So that would come from general fund money. The auditorium would probably come from the facility use revolving fund at this point, which would be outside of that. Okay. We haven't really had discussions on the best source of those funds yet. However, that's been the favorable idea. And then finally is the $100,000 for wireless funds, wireless connectivity, which there's one over your head behind you. And those could come from three different sources. There's going to be three different sources in that. There could be general fund funds on that for the full amount, or we could partially fund it or pay for all of it out of the facility use revolving fund. And then also we might get some E-rate funds, which is a grant from the federal government to partially pay for it. Okay. We could also fund that through a lease agreement and spread it over 5 years. Okay. So depending upon what the funding source is, the impact could be as low as $76,000 to the general fund, or as high as you said, over 400,000.
Well, yeah, if we do the data, if we do the wireless, it'd be 529, but so I just, I'm in favor of all of them. I think they all
Yeah.
need to be done.
Yeah.
Clear about that. I just want to make sure we have enough money to do it.
If you look at the revenue that we got back from the health insurance, I think that alone covers a majority of those projects. So worst case scenario, I could go before the school board and ask them to authorize us to spend those funds towards those projects.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Cheryl?
Matt, did I hear you say that Article 6 was a non-lapsing fund?
Yes, because it exists until the taxpayers vote it to close.
Because I think Article 7 is also a non-lapsing.
Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
sound like that's a
different.
question.
No, let's deal with 7 when we get to it.
Okay, but because I thought I saw it when in your narrative on Article 7, but not on Article 6. That's why I was asking if Article 6 was also a
Yeah.
non-lapsing.
Yeah, the important thing about Article 7 is that you're restricting the revenues.
Can we stick with Article 6?
Yes.
All right,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Article 6,
second,
or that we recommend Articles, sorry,
second,
incorrect words.
second. Okay, vote.
Aye.
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 Okay,
Hey,
I'm freezing.
all right. Did we miss one earlier here for the collective bargaining?
that was a
No, we did
non-minor
No,
item.
Okay,
And that one deals with
Oh,
if the
meeting.
article for the collective bargaining agreement
Bargaining.
fails, whether we can call for a special meeting.
And we don't vote on that one.
You
Right.
don't.
okay.
So Article 7. This one's actually kind of exciting. Yeah,
I feel like.
You're
a
such a
geek.
dork.
governmental accounting's fun.
That's how I am about software. I'm like, ooh.
All right. Actually, Jamie had a really good way of explaining it last night. Okay. And he summarized what I said, or I'm about to say in just a couple of sentences. Okay. So basically, we're asking to create a fund to operate like an insurance plan that is found at Timberlane right now.
Well, this one doesn't have any money affiliated with it either, does it? This isn't getting funded. We don't need to do this one.
No, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
one that's just to establish it. And
Yeah.
then the funds
Yeah.
will come in
It's
after
still
it's approved.
asked if it's
It's-
recommended by us. though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
But
got
we,
this.
we don't vote on it if it doesn't have money attached to it.
It only has money where it's restricting the revenue for a specific purpose.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. Yep.
And quite frankly, I got the language from our attorneys because this particular warrant article is unique. It's only been used only one, maybe two other times in the state. I only know of Timberlane that's doing this. I'm sure there are going to be others that do it as well.
But if this passes and it will be funded, it's funded by households and
Yes.
students' parents or whatever. So it's got nothing to do with communal
Funding.
tax impact.
Well, it could. See, if this doesn't pass and we operate, say, for example, we didn't do this, okay? The revenues, we didn't do the revolving fund, okay? The revenues would have to go into the general fund, and all the expenditures that go out to run the program would come out of the general fund. So they would be included in the operating budget, okay? Now, because it would go into the general fund, and we have the word general assigned to it, I could use the premiums that came in and use it for something else. Okay. What this fund does is it segregates it from the general fund, and that revenue that comes in can only be used for the purpose stated in the stated in the warrant article. Okay. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
All right. So I do think that it's appropriate for this committee to vote on it, because what we're doing is we're restricting revenue that would otherwise go into the general fund and use it for a purpose that could also be paid for out of the general fund.
Well, hold on. So now, currently at the time, are we charging households any money at all for device protection?
We are not.
Okay.
Right now,
So there is no funds that are going in through this channel that are getting redirected anywhere.
that's correct.
If we were to start to charge households this insurance policy and the money goes into the general fund, it could not be there at a later date to cover the repairs of a bunch of laptops or whatever else the kids go and destroy. With this, it just makes it right straight down the line that this is what it's for and that's it.
It has to be legally segregated. Okay.
Yep.
So let me jump back into my narrative here. So remember, parents have the option to pay the insurance premium, and they're going to pay it up front at the beginning of the school year. Okay. If they choose not to pay for the premium, then they're paying for the actual damages that the student causes to their computer. Okay. So, so under Timberlane's example, the cost of the parent it ranges between $10.50 and $42 per year, depending upon the grade that the student is in. Okay. Now, once they're in the program, they're not going to pay any further amount towards the repair of that computer. So say, for example, they paid the $42 and the student damaged the screen. It was $100. They're not going to be asked to pay any more. We're going to repair with the funds that are going to be within the revolving fund. Okay. Now, I said in here that this is also a non-lapsing fund, meaning that our authorization to appropriate out of this doesn't end at the fiscal year. It goes from year to year to year until such time that the fund is closed.
Is there a cap on it?
No, there's no cap on it. That's
Why not?
something that you would find more in Massachusetts.
So ultimately, this could turn into $1 million fund.
It could if you let it go.
Hypothetically, it could.
Okay, and that's one of Cheryl's questions. Okay,
Yeah.
where like if you had a deficit in the fund, how would you raise it? And you would raise it by increasing your rates. Okay, likewise, if you have a surplus in the fund, you could reduce your rates. Okay, so you'd be trying to manage the balances as opposed to creating, because there's no mechanism to get the funds out of there within this language.
Right.
So my question is, what happens when it closes? And is there money in there? I mean, at what stage does it close? I'm just curious.
It would be, let's see, I haven't seen a revolving fund close in years.
Okay.
Okay,
So we'll just
so
assume
it
will
would
stay.
either
I'm
be-
okay with that, but.
It would be either, I would think it would have to be closed by probably the school board.
Okay.
Okay, and any funds that were in there would automatically close into the general fund and then
Yeah.
end up in surplus fund balance and get used to reduce the tax rate.
Because you never know, technology in 10 years could be completely different.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, this district's going to look completely different in 10 years.
It wouldn't need to go before the voters to close that fund?
I don't believe
The
so,
warrant article?
because I don't recall that in the statute. You would need authorization to close a capital reserve fund or a expendable trust fund, but I could see that, I could see this revolving fund getting closed differently just by an act of the school board. So that would be, I'm going to say, let's save that answer for that day that we want to close it.
Could be in 2 years at the rate technology's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to be specific and make sure that the public understands that the funds can only be used for supporting, maintaining, and replacing student electronic devices. Okay, so any purchases that we do has to fit within that language. So I could see us buying whole computers with it. I can see us supporting the computers with it. I can't see us using those funds to reduce the tax rate with it.
Okay, when you say computers, we're not talking about these funds being used to buy a new library computer
No,
or guidance counselor's computer.
no.
Student devices.
Just students.
This is strictly going to be student devices.
Student electronic devices.
Just one question. If a device gets broken now, how does it get paid for?
It gets paid for by, well, there's two parts to it. The first one is if we have a spare part that we already own, we could replace it. Okay. However, if it's a significant, really expensive item like a screen, then the parents pay for it. And I do see money coming into the general fund to repair computers
When you
often.
get a device for your child within the district, you have to sign a device agreement form and it basically.
I mean, we
the
can't
language
get
states
some,
that.
some households to pay their hot lunch bill.
Right.
You know, I mean, how are you going to get them to pay $180 screen repair? You're saying that most of these repairs on a, currently are funded by households that they make good on them?
Yeah,
You'd be surprised though, like my kids have had their Chromebooks are very sturdy,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah, they are.
surprised they've lasted. I'm just jinxing myself now, but. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody pretty well saturated with the depth of that conversation? Okay,
Make a motion to recommend?
second,
Aye.
Christine, Mary?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Joe?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 8, this is the unanticipated educational expenses. All right. Now, this is a capital reserve fund that was created in 2019, and the funds can only be used for the purpose stated in the warrant article, and it's for unanticipated educational expenses, which is kind of a broad definition. Okay. The example that I would give is that if we have a huge influx of students that move into the district, and say, for example, we have to put in a new grade to cover that influx, then we would hire a teacher and pull the funds out of this capital reserve fund to pay for those costs. Okay. Now, so the source of funds that are going to be going into this are coming from surplus funds at year end. So these are the funds that we didn't spend throughout the year, or revenues that we generated above our budget.
So let's just say you don't have a position filled within the district, but you do need to add a different position. So do you take the money from the position that hasn't been filled, and then if you needed additional money, you would take it from here?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to understand it.
What is the balance now?
Oh, I had that.
We had it on our slide as of 12/31, right?
Yeah, but I have an updated number.
That's one of the
Yeah.
questions we asked at our
That was the
meeting
one
on
we
6th,
wanted,
and
the
we didn't have
December
the
31st
information.
update.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just presented that to the
Finance committee.
Finance Committee a couple nights ago, or last night.
Forward that to me when you, what's that?
Is that the leak?
Yes. Oh, missing ceiling area.
I
That's
saw
where
that
the leak
last night.
is.
At the greenhouse.
Yeah.
Well, there's
That's,
2 pieces to it. The greenhouse
Is it
actually
really
has
the
a drain
greenhouse?
underneath
I don't
it.
know.
the greenhouse is way over there and the water just runs this way.
So
Pretty small greenhouse.
what's happened here is that the siding doesn't come completely up to the window. So if water gets driven into the side of the building, it's going between the window and the siding, down the wall and coming through the ceiling. So
The 2 o'clock.
the December 31 balance for the unanticipated educational expenses is $200,223.47. And with this warrant article, we're asking to add 50,000 to that balance.
How much was it? I'm sorry.
$200,223.47.
Thank you.
So 200,223.47.
Can I ask a question that I didn't send to you?
Go ahead.
Yes? Thank you.
Yeah.
I have been.
How often have we had to use money from this one?
I don't believe we have.
Is there, you have an idea of a cap that you want to get to? Or
I think with this, well, that's kind of a hard answer to answer at this point. I think my guess is at this point, we would be near the cap. Okay. I am, as a business administrator, I have recommended that I would prefer to see more money go into this utility cost expendable trust fund. And because we've had some disagreement whether I could use those unanticipated funds for utility costs. Okay. So I am more on the side of trying to expand the language to make it so that we can operate the district easier. Okay. And so unanticipated costs, I think at this point going forward would be more towards a ballooning of enrollment or a change in enrollment that would cause some cost to occur that was not expected. Okay. I know that's kind of a vague answer, but that's the best that I can give you right now.
When this fund was new and proposed by Tom a couple years ago,
2019, I believe.
19. He specifically said, you know, if there was an unanticipated development within the district, whether it was a new large, you know, cohort of students that came in, or a specific, very involved special ed case, something that required pointed and direct large amounts of fund that were not anticipated. And it was only for use for that purpose.
Okay. Now, just know too that at $250,000, you're hiring 2 teachers and you would have some funds left over. Okay. So if you think about a classroom having 20 students, if you had 40 students come in and you had to hire 2 teachers, most of that fund would be
Wipe it
depleted.
right out. That would probably highly, unless you got a family from Appalachia. Because when you get an influx of kids, it's usually 2 in 3rd grade, 1 in 4th grade, a couple of high schoolers that add up to 40.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be like all in one grade. So I would see something really catastrophic happening to have to hire a teacher, but
It would be,
Look at the lower.
it would be significant.
Yeah.
It would be similar to like last year when we lost the 2 boilers at Bakey Elementary. That was significant.
isn't that a capital expense in the facilities? That wouldn't be considered an educational expense?
No, it's not an educational expense, but I'm using that as an analogy where it's like the thought process is basically the same.
Yeah, I
It's a
understand.
Catastrophic
Yeah, I
event that
understand.
occurred where you would have to dip into the funds, where you wouldn't have the ability to do it with inside your own operation.
Right, but this is restricted to quote educational, which the only example I've ever heard is having to hire teachers.
Yeah.
Well, the other one that, as I recall, was that we used to have the special education fund that we added to periodically. Instead, we have this, which is broader and also could include a special ed, all of a sudden, you know, catastrophic need.
Yes,
But we still have the special ed.
we still have the
Yes, we
special,
do.
but we have not funded it. We have not added funds to it in the last few years. And just to kind of quickly say how much is in there. There's $241,211.38 in that fund.
Now, that's the one that could go real quickly. You get one out of district placement, you could use $200,000. Bingo.
Oh, you could use more than that. Easy.
I was trying to be conservative there, Matt.
It's Cheryl's humor. Okay, is everybody good on the explanations for that article?
Motion to recommend
Second.
Article 7.
Article 8.
I'm going this way this time.
Oh, okay.
Laura.
Aye.
Cheryl.
No.
Aye.
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 Aye. 1 no, 7 ayes.
Got it.
Okay, number 9. This is the capital reserve fund for capital improvement and maintenance. Let me get to my notes here really quick. So this is also a capital reserve fund like the one that you found in Article 8. However, the purpose of these funds can only be used for the care, upkeep, and improvement of the school district facilities. An example would be a roof repair that was not anticipated through the proposed operating budget that is in Article 3. Similar to Article 6, surplus funds at year end are the source of funds for this particular warrant article, and it doesn't impact the tax rate. So for an example out of this fund, you know, the Bakey boilers, those are over $600,000 to replace those. Okay. I could have withdrawn a significant portion of funds out of this just to pay for those boilers. Because of COVID, we were able to pay for those out of our operating funds and keep the capital reserve fund intact. At the end of December, the balance of those funds are $273,071.80.
Are there any other big things you anticipate having us spend that money on now?
Other big things. Yeah. So I have issued a capital improvement plan. If we lose a freezer or refrigerator, it's going to significantly put a dent in this fund if we can't pay for it out of our own operations. And I'm just picking those out off the top of my head off that list. Okay. Because that list goes on for pages.
So the facilities meetings, they were talking about like replacing the doors at Swayze, like things like that. Does that come out of the capital reserve fund?
It could come out of the capital reserve fund.
Okay.
Where does our ceiling fall in that?
That ceiling, that's going to fall mostly under insurance funds, I hope.
And when do we expect to see that happening?
Basically what I want to do is we're having problems, two pieces. The first one is actually chasing down the source of the leak.
Okay.
Part of the problem too is that it's in the wintertime, and one of the solutions, we can't apply it to the side of the building.
How long has it been leaking?
It's been leaking since the fall. It's taken us a while to actually kind of pinpoint it.
Did we bring anybody in to pinpoint it, or are we just doing this with our part-time that we have between doing our administrative jobs?
No, we're bringing in people, and actually part of the problem is that the siding up there is failing. So when we went up there, we realized that it's blistering. It's not so bad on this part of the building. It's really bad over the high school entrance.
Okay. But the high school entrance is fine.
No, but the siding is actually blistering and coming apart.
Okay, but we're not experiencing leaks in that portion of the school.
Actually, we have 5 leaks in the building
Okay.
that we're chasing down. One's in the silo, and then there's small pinholes in the roof. And we repair the roof constantly. The roof is massive.
Yeah, I know. I've
So,
dealt with
Cheryl
roofs
has her
before.
hand up.
oh, sorry.
Sure.
So I just want to make the distinction between Vanessa's example, replacing doors. Are those doors that were failing, or just because in my mind, and please correct me, there's a capital improvement plan, there's a capital replacement, which you kind of look at things that have what their natural life would be expected to be, and you plan to replace those to kind of smooth it out. So you're not waiting for things to just break all the time. But this would be those things that break that you didn't anticipate, like when the roof collapsed at the middle school several years ago. How do you determine where you're going to take the money from? And it doesn't say here unanticipated, but I think you said it in your narrative.
I don't think I said. Okay, so a repair not anticipated through the proposed operating budget. Okay, so if I didn't put it in the operating budget to be repaired,
Scheduled.
then I can withdraw it from this fund.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
So would
So-
the leaking roof fall into this?
it would, but in this particular case, insurance funds would be covering that
Oh, yeah,
repair.
you said that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just curious if we have enough. Like, that's what I'm
Actually,
worried.
the best example for like the leaky roof thing is when the wind ripped the roof off of the gym 2 years ago, and it damaged the floor in the gym. Okay, that cost over $60,000 to repair, and that was paid 100% by our insurance. Okay, so this would be. This is a hard concept to try to explain to people, but when you look at a capital improvement plan, if you put money away over a period of time and fund some of your capital improvement plan from it, you're actually smoothing the tax rate over like a 10-year period. You can bring the tax rate down by managing your CIP plan with your capital reserve funds. Okay, that's actually a hard thing to show taxpayers the need for. Okay, so I don't want to say this is just for emergencies. I would like to say that it's for emergencies and it's for capital planning to help smooth out the tax rate so that it keeps the shock down to taxpayers.
What would be the goal, the target for this fund?
right now, a target hasn't been developed. I would love to have a target developed in relation to the capital improvement plan. And really, in some of the other communities I've been at, some of the targets have ranged between 25% and 30% of the overall fund of the CIP plan. Okay. I don't think we have reached the point in our discussions to actually start pinpointing what a reasonable amount is. Given the scope of the CIP plan, I think that the balance in here is not approaching that limit yet.
Given the amount of historic deferral of maintenance that we have, I very much doubt it is.
Which is why I'm questioning if this is enough. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to start somewhere. And we started by putting $50,000 in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this the one that before, was it last year, or the year before, where some, I think that some members of the community tried to increase it, and we were like, oh, that might not be a good idea because it's not going to pass.
Yeah, somebody got up. and
I
made
forget how it ended
obnoxious
up in the
amount.
end, but I remember there was talk of, I think somebody raised it from 50 to 75, and there was a whole discussion if it
Oh,
was
yeah.
Yes.
too much, it just might not pass. I forget what the end.
Yeah.
The 70, I
forget
think the
what the end result was.
75,000 passed, but then there was the obnoxious booted up to 100,000 or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then that got
To
negotiated
sabotage
down.
it?
I think it
Purposely?
was an obnoxious move. And then it was negotiated out in the audience to have it brought down. Annie?
I kind of would like, I mean, I know that we don't change these here and that we're moving them forward and we're recommending, or we haven't recommended this yet. But I think I'd like to see at the deliberative session, maybe 25 come off of the educational expenses and 25 get added to the capital improvement. You know, leave some going into the educational, but we're getting close to where we need to be with the two together, that one and the special ed, but we really need more here. And I don't think, and that would be a way to avoid asking taxpayers for, you know, more money coming out of their surplus fund, potential refund, and, you know, and yet fund them. So I'd like to see that entertained, and maybe the school board would even entertain making the change because it is their warrant article.
When does this need to be signed by?
Tonight.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you could do that from the floor if you get the
Well, that's
podium
what I was
away
just,
from
I was
the.
just having the conversation with you all. Yep.
Oh, no, that was to answer her question.
Oh.
All right. So
I'll make a motion to recommend.
I'll second.
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
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 Unanimous.
Are we done?
That was
That-
it.
That was it?
I just have a couple more questions.
Sure, go right
Just
ahead.
Matt, real quick follow, if you don't mind. You said that the anticipated funds, your best guesstimate with the health insurance, around 900,000, right?
That's
Roughly?
known, he said. There could be other,
Yeah. So that's
I think it was
just a
400.
starting point. Okay.
Yep.
I said it's over $400,000. It's called a health insurance premium. And what it is, it's a return of health insurance premiums from the health insurance company because they didn't spend it. I don't even want to get into how it's funded, but they didn't spend it for health insurance, for health related costs for our teachers. Okay. So,
Yeah, Matt, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I didn't need an explanation on that.
oh, okay.
You should
yeah.
report. I just wanted to verify, like 900 is the number.
Well, right now it's 900, but it could go lower if the school board decided to reauthorize the contingency fund. Then you're going to remove 537,000 right off of that.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So,
it's-
you know, right now I can just say it's going to be minimally, you're going to get 400,000. Okay. And then what gets added to that would be what doesn't get reauthorized by the school board in the contingency fund. And then added to that would be whatever gets returned back to the taxpayers from unspent appropriation that the buildings didn't pay for supplies, for those positions. We couldn't hire teachers or paras and other line items like that.
I'm just trying to work backwards, because when you add up all the warrant articles that we just voted on and approved, right? Because they're mostly coming from those funds. Right? That's 175,000. Then you tack on the 454, 163. That's the track, wireless, auditorium, 150K for the wall move. I didn't include the memorial bus drop. That's 629, 163. So if we fund all of those out of the 900, we essentially would have money still going back to the taxpayers. Correct?
Yes,
Okay, so essentially we could fund everything that the school needs, right?
yes,
Okay, and still return money to the taxpayers.
yes.
Okay,
But
that's it. So I need,
I only want to, I'm like cautioning that, but because I would have to have school board approval
understood.
in order to push forward these projects.
Hypothetical.
So I don't even want to put hope towards getting these things accomplished.
Well, yeah, and the 150 has to get accomplished because that's the wall.
Yeah, well, moving, yes.
What? The 150?
Well,
That's the what?
That's
wall.
the
That's-
transition, the third and sixth.
So
grade.
No,
the,
he was saying that that was $2,600 the last time and included a door.
I know, but no, he's using the word wall for the whole project of moving
Yeah, the move,
third
sorry.
Oh,
and sixth
okay.
grade.
Sorry,
okay.
The move.
Okay. I was going to say,
Just
that's an
jumped out of her
awful
chair.
fancy wall.
She woke up for it.
Oh, it was HVAC and that's what it was. That's why it's so high. It was HVAC and the sprinkler system.
Yes.
That's where
Yes,
the costs were
yes.
attributing from.
I
So
do-
that 150 makes sense to me now, knowing all that. Okay, sorry.
That makes sense.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I liked it. Can we re-vote on the budget then? Because I just like, I abstained because I didn't understand where all the money was coming.
Okay,
You know, because there's a lot of, my days in the town budget, you know, we'd vote on the budget and then we'd add in all these warrant articles and it's a lot of money, you know, so.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so
Yep.
you got to sort of lump it together and
Yeah.
there's only one pie that it comes from. So
Well, that doesn't include the town.
I get it. I understand that.
Yeah.
So can we re-vote on the budget? Would that be okay with everybody?
Sure.
Because I abstained and I'd like to vote.
Would you like to come over to the dark side?
No, I just,
You said we couldn't
Okay.
because of the public
Okay,
hearing.
so I had made a motion to approve the budget, that we recommend the budget, and
Yes.
Jim seconded
Oh,
it.
we're talking about the warrant
Recommended.
article.
Yeah.
the warrant article. This
Warrant
is,
article.
this is-
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Just to
I
put
thought
that
you
number.
wanted to revote on the,
no, I'm sorry.
On the
warrant
budget.
article- The warrant article reference to the budget.
okay,
I was
Number
going to go
3.
forward to the deliberative.
Yes.
It's number
okay,
3.
okay. All right,
so right
Okay.
now it's 7-0. And if he votes in favor of it, it would be 8-0.
okay.
Okay, so we'll do a revote for
That was
article number
8-1.
3.
I mean, 7-1.
Aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous now.
Okay. Well, it was,
Glad you worked through that.
Well,
Look, I
I'm
told
really,
you.
I'm glad it cleared, you got your,
Not very smart. Takes me a while. I gotta let it to get sink in.
Don't let your
lot.
constituents hear that.
Hey.
with that just happening last night.
all right. So Matt, can you send me the updated numbers on the reserve accounts so I can update the spreadsheet?
sure.
All right. All right, so I believe Matt has finished.
Thank you, Matt.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, so then the next items are approval of minutes for the January 6th and January 11th. I have not completed those minutes. My failure, procrastination under several different projects.
There's a lot going on.
And I will make them available prior to the deliberative, and we can vote at the deliberative to approve them so that they don't have to be done at the next committee seating. So then on to the public hearing, that wonderful public hearing that I chaired. From my personal view of how that went and my say, lack of storytelling and trying to sell something, I'm not going to present the budget. I won't be the speaker for it. I would like to ask that somebody else steps up to be the speaker during the deliberative.
What do you mean lack of storytelling?
I don't think I did a very good job of telling the background stories behind it, like bringing out the story to what we're doing. Kind of mumbled through it and wasn't a very good salesman, I'd say.
Are you looking for volunteers?
Yes.
Would the vice chair be the next in line to do that?
The vice chair.
Have you seen me try to speak at school board meetings? I don't think I could make it through the presentation. Huh?
You're very articulate.
When I have it all written down, but and I'm very nervous and I like get really worked up. I have a really hard time public speaking. And I couldn't imagine doing it in front of an audience. Like I can't even do it in front of 8 people sitting at a table.
Okay.
I had a suggestion.
Okay.
Rick, would you be willing to do it?
Yeah, I don't know if I would, to be honest with you. I don't, yeah, I don't think it's gonna fit into what I'm doing. So, to be
Okay.
honest with you, I don't
Okay.
think it's, I think it, I'm gonna run for, office and I think I'm just gonna, I think the vice or the chair should do it.
All right. Okay.
I don't think though that it's required to be a vice or the chair to do it though.
No, they don't.
No,
have-
no,
So I
no.
don't, I think if neither of you want to do it, I don't think you should be forced to do it because you're the vice or the chair. My understanding is that anyone on the budget committee can do it, so.
Mary, any interest?
On that.
No, thank you.
No. Christine?
Are you kidding?
Annie, you've done it.
I've done it many times, yeah. I mean, I'd be happy to if that's what you want.
I would be willing if,
Cheryl,
Okay.
I think we get 2 willing people.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I was going to say draw straw. Somebody
So
really
did you
wants
say
to.
you'd be willing to do it?
if you want me to do it, I would be willing to do it.
Okay. I would like you to do the presentation.
Want to vote on it?
Deliberative. Do we need a vote on that?
I don't think we do.
No, I don't believe so. It's just the
Vanessa's like,
distribution of
did you see me over here
That's all.
sweating?
me asking
When is it?
me asking somebody in the committee to step forward and
9?
do the
Yeah.
presentation at the
This was
deliberative.
Rick's
I won't-
point. Put me up for
I won't even be here.
Nobody else will do it, I'll do it.
Well, I said I would,
All right.
Cheryl, but
Oh.
I'm perfectly happy to have you do it.
All right. Thank you, Cheryl.
I will
Thank you, Sean.
introduce myself as a member, not the
Are you running for school? board?
chair.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I have a question. Oh, no, because now it's different, right? So I know for the public hearing, like Moira was obviously out sick, so Matt did the default budget, but who does it at the public hearing?
This was new because we never actually had anybody involved with the explanation of the default budget other than getting stated during the presentation.
Actually, we used to. It always used to be the budget committee that did it. And then a few years ago, we asked the school board to do it since the default budget is the school board's budget.
Yeah.
It's the school board's default budget. So then Larry Heath
Yep.
started doing it.
When
And
he was the liaison to.
Cool.
he was the liaison, and then Maura was going to do it, but then she got ill.
Right. So
And
that's-
typically also, the school board has had representatives from the school board present their warrant articles. Because they really aren't yours, Matt. They're really the school board's warrant articles. I know you've written them.
I know that, hold on, Matt. I know that last year, I remember 2019, Larry Heath got up and did it. And last year, Tammy
Mhm.
got up and stated it, but I don't recall her saying that anything about how the default budget is.
I think there were slides. I
Calculated.
think she had like 3 slides.
It's one sentence. It's the statutory definition of the default budget. And it's written down. All you have to do is read it. It's because it's a statute.
So
But
does that,
but the explanation of what the default budget is being spent on, you did that, right?
To some degree, yes.
so this happens at the deliberative as well.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same process. I'm just trying to, yeah. So
I think-
for me, like, it's really difficult because I don't know this stuff before I join it, and I don't remember year to year, and it's not like there's a guideline, you know what I mean?
Vanessa,
Sorry.
Matt had his hand up a little
Oh,
while
I'm
ago.
sorry.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, this is a great discussion, okay, because the statute's silent on who presents it, or even how this, the deliberative is operating, okay? So it could be as simple as a representative of the budget committee and school board can do it. I've seen communities where, especially in the town side, where the town administrator is the one who actually presents on behalf of the committees, okay? So it can be anything that you guys decide.
Anybody we-
So this is a great discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we want to decide that tonight? Like,
This,
I
we're
think-
deciding what.
who
who's
is going to
be-
present it? Yeah.
Wait, because we're not meeting again until the deliberative, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
I just think that, we could say unless the school board decided they want to present their warrants, that we'll present the default budget as a part of ours and give them the option if they want to do it, and they can prepare the slide and the person and all that stuff. And it's up to the school board how they present their warrant articles, whether they have Matt do it or if they have different members as they've done in the past.
Yep.
Different ones, like whoever negotiated and presenting the negotiations and I know Matt was part of it, but still it's school board's responsibility.
So I would say it should still be included in the slideshow, but whoever reads it could be different.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we did. That's what we did with Larry. He just stood up and read, and same with Tammy. She
For the
just stood up and-
defaults, you're just saying the default, or you're saying everything?
No, just the default, right.
Just the default definition
And like the number?
and the
Right.
number.
Like, this is the default budget and this is the statute for the default budget, right? Is that what you're saying, Cheryl?
Yeah, I think we used to also just have the basic, what, the
Explanation. of it.
funds of what,
Minus
where the money
contractual
went in the
obligations,
default.
right.
Yeah. So we have like a can
Just like
statement.
an outline
for
of the
somebody to
default.
read.
Yeah, that's what I was actually looking for. And,
Like previous ones or something. Do you want to do that, Moira, or do you want one of us?
I'm fine doing that. That's fine.
As long as we have like a
So
script. for
isn't
you.
there, Matt, like a one sheet thing that says the default budget? It's
Yeah, I sent it. You mean for the statute?
Not the statute, but the default. What, like,
the default budget is.
this much money
it's
goes to
inclusive
here,
of
this
what?
money goes, no, I'm talking about the, so the statutory thing, that's a one sentence.
Okay.
But isn't there used to be like, almost like just a one page thing of what
Yeah.
where the money was
Yeah.
going to,
I-
and how it added up.
For Tom's proposal, it's a 3-slide part of the presentation. We went through the statute. We did where the starting balance is, and then what the changes are from the starting balance to arrive to the ending balance. Okay. I
Is it
can,
okay if we do those?
we
Can we
can,
can we make it 3 or 4 slides? And I think
course.
we might have to update the slides. Is that right? Because the
yeah,
default can,
it would be
can I-
easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still going to work on the changes on the slide, or is Cheryl going to do that?
Do you want me to send the slides to you, the presentation to you to update, or?
I can do that, yeah.
And so I'll talk to Tom, Cheryl, then about getting you the updated default budget, because it did change from the slides, or,
Oh, it did.
or just you,
Change it
Matt.
tomorrow. It's me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So can you send those to Cheryl?
You know, Tom Ambrose numbers are not the right ones. They're just
Okay.
round numbers.
We'll just cut to the chase. If Matt can give it to Cheryl, and that will be taken care of, and then I will stand up and present. That's fine.
Okay.
So when you say change, this is not the number of the default anymore?
Well, from what Tom's original presentation, it was actually some things that were brought up at the budget committee. I believe it was the budget committee brought up a couple of things that actually changed the default.
No, but from what we did at the public hearing, that's.
Oh, no,
So the
that
public
that
hearing
has
is
not
correct.
changed.
But the
Okay,
slides that Matt is going to send you that says
Okay.
how we come about that number.
it's got to match. the-
Those, right, those are
Yeah.
slightly different.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't take it from the previous presentation.
Yeah,
I'll wait
okay.
for whatever Matt sends.
And then will you take back to the school board to make a decision on how they want the other warrants presented at the deliberative?
The warrant articles.
The warrant articles on all the capital reserve
So,
funds?
I'm sorry, so you want me to find out how the school board wants to present the warrant article?
Well, I just want you as a school board to discuss it because you won't be coming back to us.
Okay,
But, I mean, it seems to have fallen through the cracks, and I think it was because people were sick and out of town and all that kind of thing. But, the school board didn't actually take on making that decision once they moved.
but
them
you're
forward.
suggesting that maybe I should present the warrant articles.
Well,
Is that
I'll
fair?
tell you a
I'm
couple.
perfectly fine doing it. I just,
I would suggest that Jamie present the support staff one because he was on negotiations for it. I know in the past, somebody from facilities has presented facilities. I think you're on facilities. Different, the capital reserve fund and that kind of thing, just as appropriate, people who own what the information is.
okay. Do we put those up on the slide or
Mhm.
those warrant
Yeah.
articles actually go up on the slide?
Yes.
That maybe if different people did it, it's not a matter of people getting up and down, like, could somebody just present it from the chair?
I think last year we did it where they were presenting from the chair.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking in terms of, it's gonna slow things down if like, you wait for me to get up, I say one warrant article, then I get down, and then Jamie gets up and, I just think it's kind of a lot of up and down.
Yes.
And maybe you could coordinate where you could move the slide forward
was
for the
gonna
person
say,
who's then talking about it.
Right.
I think the school
The
board
members
had
of
a
the school board
separate
sitting in the
slide
panel. They did it from the
from
the
the
panel.
budget committees, but it was just one person flipping the slides
Yeah.
while the other multiple members
Right.
would read
That
from
was-
their chair.
That was Pam. She was up there at the
Yeah.
computer herself.
Okay.
So can I just ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope. So I'll do the presentation, but I would like to ask Jim, you're going to open the meeting as the chair,
No, actually, the moderator
the
does.
moderator.
Oh, yes.
does.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right too. The moderator does. Yep.
So does the moderator introduce the committee members? Or would
Mhm.
that be?
Yes.
Have in the
Okay.
He
past.
does.
So yeah, that's going to be, so how does this go again? I know that I've done it a couple times, but I need like a refresher. Like, what
Okay.
is the process? Because again, it's not like I can go and be like, here's the process for this, you know what I mean? Like,
The moderator opens the meeting.
Yep.
The supervisors of the checklist have given people voting cards.
yep.
Voters sit together, non-voters sit up in the balcony.
Yep.
Then the moderator introduces, reads the first two warrants.
Yeah.
Usually, or the school board might, but the moderator gets the first two read. Then we present Article 3, the operating budget, with Maura getting up to do the default in the middle of it. And then it goes 4, 5, 6, 7,
8, 9.
8, 9, whatever numbers they are. 8, 9, that's the total, right? So different school board members do it and Maura flips it or something. And each time there's an article, then the people get up and
They ask questions, do we answer?
Mm,
I think they wait to the
No.
end
Yeah, it's just.
Yes.
yeah.
and then they take.
A lot of times Tom will answer some questions. Sometimes Matt will answer some questions.
That will be called.
We don't really have to answer any questions unless we get asked directly.
I just want to make sure because I know that there's been some confusion as to whether or not it can or can't be a back and forth. And I want
Yeah.
to understand the process so I
Well,
don't
it-
do something wrong.
So-
The
It's a
deliberative is a
session.
deliberative. It's not a hearing.
Yeah.
Right. That's a give and take, and it's the public's opportunity to ask questions and seek
And-
answers.
And we can either choose to answer them or not, basically.
You can raise your hand and be recognized by the moderator, but you just remember he's the one in charge of the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then someone from from the group listening, the audience will or won't make a recommendation to change it. If there's a recommendation to change anything, then we have a vote.
Yep.
And then there's usually someone makes a motion that discussion be closed on that, so that at 2 minutes after midnight, it isn't reopened with 3 people in the room. And then, then it's over. And then we have to decide if there's, I think, you might want to put a notice of a meeting for us afterwards, which we can always cancel. But if anything gets changed during the deliberative, we could then vote on it that night.
Before it
At the
goes.
conclusion of the
At the
meeting.
At the
conclusion.
conclusion of the deliberative session, you could call our meeting and we could vote on any changes and how we feel about it.
And then those numbers would go on the ballot.
Yes, yeah, whatever comes out of the deliberative is what goes on the ballot, and whatever we voted on any changes would go on the ballot. Yep.
So Vanessa, people from the public can make a motion to change
Mhm.
the numbers. They can't substantively change it, like if it
can't
was
change it.
$100,000, you
Yeah.
can't change it to one.
Yes, you
Because
can.
I thought that would defeat the whole purpose of
It's
the,
been done.
You can't change the intent.
Yeah.
But you
Of,
can change the number.
of the warrant article.
Yeah.
You can change the dollar amount. You can change the budget 10% either way.
No, 10% up, any
Any
amount
amount
down.
down, you're right.
But what does that mean by intent? With that, by what you're saying, Cheryl, like if they changed it to one, that would be changing the intent. Would that not, is that what you
that's
mean?
my
language.
It's context.
understanding.
my-
If you have-
Context, I guess, is
Right.
what you need to
Yeah.
look at. So it's.
So you agree with what Cheryl's saying? Is that right?
We
That would be
usually-
changing the intent if somebody changed it to
No,
one?
you can change it to $1. That,
But that doesn't change the intent?
It doesn't.
it doesn't.
No.
Oh,
When I
It's
say
still a line
intent,
item.
it's context. So I'm trying to think of an
because
example.
to me, that would be changing the intent.
If it were about the hockey team and you're saying to establish a hockey team and fund it, and you change it to never establish a hockey team or fund it, that would change the intent of the article.
That's it, yeah. Okay.
So it's just language related.
Yeah,
Dollar
it's
amount can move.
context.
And,
Context.
I'm
and
just
we
thinking
also
when you
have,
change to a
addi-
dollar, you've essentially taken away the ability
Exactly.
for money to be put in there. So I
Right.
see what you're saying.
basically nullified the,
And it-
Right.
an important thing too is the district's attorney is also at the meeting. So if there's any questions like that, we also have someone trained in jurisdictional Judas law. So, we've got experts on the law.
Okay.
So we don't have to, make that ruling.
Okay.
So then we'll call a meeting. If there's no point for a meeting, then
We
he'll
can just cancel it.
no meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I just wanted to make sure.
And if it changes, we have to sign a new MS 27.
Which would be
Yeah.
there available that
You know,
evening.
Yeah, it's not going to be available that evening.
Well, yeah, would
You
we
can
have to
retype
meet
it.
again to sign that stuff?
Usually go into the office and sign it.
Oh, we've done that one year.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can stop by the office. Yeah. That's
Whenever
right.
I do these, the things don't change that much. Everything is quiet. So
Right.
you're asking a lot of questions of things that I just don't see.
But it's good to know, like structurally, I think it's good to recap every year on the committee, what the expectation of the meeting is, the do's
Yes.
and don'ts, how the flow is, because every year you're going to have new people. And if you have a space cadet like me that can't remember last year, never mind yesterday, I just don't remember the flow process, and
Now
well,
you got it.
yeah, thank you.
at one point, we suggested that new committee members have someone on the committee assigned like a mentor. But that was voted down.
I think we should do training.
Yeah. There's,
Okay.
I think,
All right.
Sorry.
you can go
The
to-
next article. All right.
Did you skip over number 2?
Number 2. No, we didn't even get there yet.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so I believe we're all set with Matt, except for you might want to be here for number 1. So now getting into discussions that some of these are going to pertain to next year's committee and then whoever's chairing. So we're just kind of like kicking the can down the road on this. But some food for thought from Matt. Number 1 discussion is submitting questions and follow-up questions to the administration regarding budgets of and for any fiscal year. We had an issue earlier this year where the questions were submitted. The administration presented their answers. We were submitting new questions based on those answers. Ms. Gannon's got lost in there somewhere, and then the follow-up presentation where they were answering that second round of questions, Cheryl brought up the fact that the administration did not address her questions in that. So she began asking more questions, and it kind of became an irritation for some, and thought that it was unreasonable, which I don't believe to be. So Cheryl, your idea was to put up some kind of process flow that everybody knows about and is going to get on board with.
Well, I think Vanessa and I are kind of process people,
Yeah.
you know, and especially for new members of the committee to see that, you know, this is the process that we follow. Just have it written out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
I'd like to make a statement about your statement, how you don't agree with, not being able to ask questions and get answers. The law says that they're to give us all information that we ask for, that's like documents and things like that. It doesn't say they're to answer questions. Our administration bends over backwards to help us with information. And I don't think it's really fair to say that they're not doing everything we'd like them to do. I think we really need to acknowledge that they're going beyond what a lot of districts do in the state in really being very resistant to giving information to their
Okay.
budget committees and even to their school boards.
I didn't say that they weren't bending over backwards or saying anyway that they weren't providing proper.
Okay, you said you didn't agree with not
I
being
didn't
able to
agree-
answer.
I didn't agree with the attitude that was taken towards the extra questions is what I disagreed with. I totally agree with being able to ask questions and appreciate it. But where her questions got missed and then she started bringing them up during the meeting, it was irritation towards that. And that's what I'm saying I don't agree with. I was saying I agree. I felt that she should have been heard, just like I think everybody else. No.
No,
No,
can
we'll do
maybe I
questions
can,
after
maybe
the-
I can explain.
after the
I don't even know if people understand what happened. I had sent questions on a form and it got lost in email. And we didn't know that till we got to the meeting.
Right.
That Matt had not received those questions. I then sent it to him while we were sitting at the meeting. So, and he very graciously answered the questions. So it was a misunderstanding that I was now bringing up questions that had not previously been submitted, but it was a miscommunication because the email didn't go through. So I'm just suggesting that we write down the process, that you submit your questions on the form. And we've discussed this before. We don't want to have each budget committee member calling up Matt all hours of the day and asking him questions. That's not fair. So just write down that the process is you write your questions on the form, and then the business administrator or whoever it was addressed to would answer at the next budget committee meeting. We shouldn't be thinking we're going to have exchanges of question and answer on the phone or in emails before the formal presentation of those responses to the questions.
We don't, but go ahead, Matt.
I just want to kind of give my perspective on this. Sometimes it's helpful to get, if you're going to ask me a question and ask it directly, to have like at least 48 hours before a meeting, ask the question 48 hours before a meeting. Because sometimes it takes me time to actually dive into the data and actually pull out the answer. If I get asked a question at a meeting and I have to go and try to go into the data and go find it, like if I have to go pull up a position and how much money that's going to cost, it actually takes me a lot of time to focus in on the work and pull it out. And so it stops the meeting and it makes it difficult for the meeting to go forward until I pull it.
Yeah.
So, and then the other part that I'd like to ask about that process is if I don't respond to you, I probably didn't see your email. It's okay to pick up the phone and call me. Okay. Because I want to make sure that your your question is answered. That's important to me. Okay.
So that's why I'm saying we should write that down. We should write in our procedural guidelines that you should submit 48 hours And if you don't get a response that the business administrator has received your questions, you call. Just write it down what the process is so people don't get confused about it.
Rick?
I think Vanessa was.
Oh,
Sorry. So, I appreciate that you guys answer questions, and I like the fact that we're formatting them and sending them at once. I just want to make a simple point. I kind of emphasize this with people, and I'll apologize ahead of time for follow-on questions that put you on the spot. Unfortunately, we don't get the answers ahead of time. So I process information as I get it, and then I get more questions. So if I have to, it's difficult. Like, I am a processor, you know what I mean? So if I've requested if we could get answers ahead of time so I could process them, that would be great, but we don't. We get them presented at the meeting, and that's fine. But in the same respect, I know you're great about, I think we should try to build in a timeline for, if there's answers that aren't going to be addressed in a meeting, we have proper time to analyze them before we come to a meeting, in case we did have follow-on questions, but.
I don't think I can answer a lot of those questions right there at the meeting.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that it's clear that if I don't answer it, I'll tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, and you're great about getting
That's-
back,
yeah.
yeah,
Perfectly
everything is on the
reasonable.
spot.
okay.
So I'm sorry, just so I'm clear.
Sorry, Rick.
We already submit the questions on the budget beforehand, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay. And then there's follow-up questions that we usually submit.
Yes.
And Matt, you've been great about answering questions. Thank you for that. There are going to be questions that come up today. And it's not to put you on the spot, but everything happened last night, and I had a lot of questions, and quite frankly, I have another job, and I didn't have time to email them to you. So I am going to expect them to be answered. If you can't answer them tonight, right, then it's fine to say, yeah, I'm not sure, or let me look into it. I'll know. But I just want to make sure we're not saying that in a meeting, we're not going to ask questions.
Right.
Okay.
No, that's not the intent. The intent is to create a streamlined approach to
And if you have
getting
them,
that information, those questions regarding the budgets of past
okay.
review and the current.
I just want to kind of give an alternative of what it was like. So if the questions weren't asked previously, there used to be like a grill session where you would spend all day on a Saturday just waiting for administration to answer the question while they're sitting in front of you. And that's a huge amount of time, and it's inefficient time. And the problem is you're put on the spot and you come up with an answer that's not accurate.
Mhm.
And a lot of the committees and taxpayers, they pull out a lot of our answers and they use them in future conversations. And we know that, and we need to make those things as accurate as possible. Okay. And that's why the answer and question session has been so successful.
And that's why I think we should have it written down. So new committee members understand things like you just said. It's great to have that written down.
So it's not creating a new process.
No,
It's
No.
amending the
Finding.
existing one to include the after.
Just write it down
Just defining what's,
in the procedures.
Yep.
Yep.
Committee members will, as Matt suggested, submit before 48 hours or whatever timeline you decide on for the next committee. I think it would be great to have that in our guideline, so everyone's clear what they are. Because right now, it's just not written. It's so people can interpret things differently.
Motion to approve.
No, it's for next, question for next
Great
committee.
idea. I mean, it's a great idea.
It is,
No.
but this is just things because this is our last meeting.
Right.
Some of us are going to be here, some of us aren't.
No, I think it's a great idea.
So
I-
it's just getting it primed.
What more is there to discuss? You're saying 48 hours. Like, I agree with what you're saying.
Yep.
48 hours in advance. So
We're just going to put it on
I
paper.
mean, so
let's
kind of
make it
like what
happen.
we did with replacing a member when there's a vacancy.
Yep.
I would suggest that when after the new committee gets reelected or elected, that you form a subcommittee of 2 or 3 people and say, all right, let's write down the process. We bring it back to the full committee, they deliberate, and you just tighten it up. These are the guidelines.
good.
I like it.
Number 3 was adding a slide to the presentation defining what makes a default budget. This will in any dependence on the school board or administration providing a definition of what makes up the budget.
We covered that.
Default budget, which we did cover. Yep. And then this was one of the things that I was doing was meeting templates. It was just like a template of how the whole meeting would flow, and I would go through and check off certain things, and attendance, you just check off somebody's name, boom, 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 go down the line. And I don't know if it would be any help for the new almost said clerk, but the person taking the meeting minutes next year, if we could provide them with a base template of information that they need to provide that would bring them up on board and make it expeditious for them.
Isn't that what we really have with the agenda? I mean, the agenda is basically the same things one after another, although there is something left off of here, which is board comment. School board,
Yeah,
rep.
it's on the back,
Yeah.
but there's more to it. So
No,
Senior.
school board rep. Usually,
school board.
usually the
board.
school board has a report.
Report.
for us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I didn't put that in there.
Yeah,
So it would just be a template that's there for everybody to use. So instead of me putting this together today, I would have gone and grabbed the template and started it over. But it would have, instead of the agenda, it would have who seconded the motion, whoever set the motion.
Mhm.
And all you do is just write the initials next to it.
oh, I see.
Just speeds up how you create the meeting minutes.
It's what he had given it to me when I chaired that meeting. It was actually really helpful because it's kind of like a guideline, like this is where you start, this is what you do next, who's seconded, who's there, who's absent, you know what I mean? It was just a template that you
Mhm.
just kind of fill out. It was really cool.
And I also, when I was doing it, I would write down times, like, so when Matt finished speaking, Matt was first on the agenda. So I'd say after 10 minutes of, beginning the meeting, Matt got up there, and then when he finished, if I knew that I was doing the notes, I knew that I was looking for a comment from Annie. I knew that to 7:30, she didn't say anything because Matt was up there talking. So I know that I can take 20 minutes off the video right off the bat, right off the beginning. And then at the next set of notes, I know that there was something in the committee comment. And, committee comment started at 8:50. So I know that I can zip right down to the end of there. And so it's just like a timeline that you end up creating.
I was terrible
so-
at that.
That's one of my things for making the recording secretary easier.
I thought it was great.
Okay.
I saw it. I thought it was a
So,
really helpful
I'm-
template.
I don't want to say I'm confused. Are you putting that in the shared folder for people to have access to?
I could do what I have. It's just something for next year for
Oh, okay.
whoever's taking meeting.
Probably a good idea to put it in the shared folder.
And it's just,
Yeah.
it makes things quicker.
All right.
That's all. And that's it for our discussions.
No, you skipped over number 2.
Number 2. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, public hearing guidance from Mr. Ambrose.
I can address that if you want.
Yes, sir. Could you?
Okay, and I can put in my own little 2 cents in this.
Yep.
My basic rules are, there are a couple meetings that just have to go the way the statute wants it. The public hearing is one of them. And the problem with these meetings are that if it goes sideways on those meetings, the only way we can correct it, because we don't have enough time to do it, is to go before the New Hampshire legislature and have them pass a corrective action for it, okay? So meetings like this one, it's fair game, everything is open. So just kind of know when you can really, because the problem with the public hearing is that there was a potential where if something was discovered that made that public hearing fail, nothing that I saw made it fail, but it had the potential of happening. And then it would have to go to the legislature. So
Can you explain what you mean by going sideways and
Matt.
failing?
so say
Give
for
an
example,
hold
example. Yeah.
Rick?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if a member at that meeting, if a member wanted to make comments, they certainly can do so by getting up and becoming a member of the public, correct?
yeah, they can. Yep, but let me now go into reading Tom's
Yeah.
guidance, okay? And let me just kind of read it verbatim, okay? So this is Tom saying, I'm writing to try to clarify and provide guidance for all of us regarding the issue that arose at the public hearing last Tuesday. And it's always uncomfortable and frustrating when things are not clear. While I have no problem with any of the questions that were asked at the meeting, I want to make sure that we're following the legally required process for noticing a meeting. So the budget public hearing is designed to allow the community to review the warrant articles, including the budget and default budget, prior to the first deliberative session. Best practice is to present the information to allow the public to share their thoughts and feelings about the warrant articles and public comment. The public hearing is not designed to be a deliberation of the warrant articles, nor is it a question and answer session. The deliberation of the warrant article happens prior to the public hearing at the budget and school board meetings by the legislative body, the public, and the first meetings of the deliberative session. Here's where we can improve it as a team. If we want to have deliberation after the public hearing, that's perfectly fine. It must be noticed on your agenda as a budget committee meeting separate from the public hearing. Our attorney said this is the best way to avoid issues. And there's two ways to do this in the future. The first one is to structure the agenda so the budget committee opens the budget committee meeting and then includes the public hearing as part of the public meeting agenda on a specific item. Once that hearing is over, the chair closes the hearing and the budget committee may have a deliberation or discussion on a separate agenda item. This is the model we use for the school board. The second option is to have the public hearing, adjourn the public hearing, and then open a budget committee meeting after the public hearing. Either of these options work just fine. I also recommend adding language explaining each warrant article during public hearing in the future. I know this has been the practice in the past, so it seems logical to continue the practice. Somehow this slipped through this year. When developing agendas, items should be clearly labeled when there is going to be a discussion. It may seem like semantics, but there is a difference between board and budcom comment and board budcom discussion and or action. Comment is typically feedback, discussion, and or action is a decision making and voting. Public comment. Public comment is not required by law at normal meetings, but obviously is the best practice to include public comment. The rules for public comment are up to the budget committee. There are best practices for public comment. Public comment should be limited to agenda items. For the budget committee, this is easy because the agenda item is always the budget. Public comment should be limited, should have a limit, usually 3 minutes per person, and that's what the school board has adopted. Public comment should not be a question and answer session. I have clarified with our attorney that answering question is at the prerogative of the committee and or administration. There have always been times when I've answered questions at public meetings because not doing so would damage the reputation of the district or create confusion. Having a dialogue at public hearing is not recommended. It is important to remember that the public hearing is one part of a three-part process, and making mistakes could jeopardize the budget process. And then finally, the administration. The school board the Sanborn Regional School District asks that the budget committee, the budget questions are submitted. We'll skip that because we already did that. Now, we have a clearly defined process for the budget development and adoption. It has run smoothly for 5 seasons, and I hope this information was beneficial as we move forward through this process. Okay.
Annie?
Yeah, I was sitting and thinking today about what happened in the public hearing and what the components were of what was fairly disastrous in some ways. And it seems to me that one was that Jim wasn't able to attend our final prep. This is a no-fault list. This is a total no-fault list. The school board slides on the default were not done. Matt got called out of town. Maura was ill. And Matt read the warrants as required by the RSA, but the typical culture of our system is that they're explained, and they weren't explained, they were just read. I think that the questions came about because there was no explanation, because it was outside of our cultural norm. And I think that if we have, hang on,
No, I just.
okay, if we have, as Tom had suggested, had that discussion back in there, that a lot of this would have not happened. So that's just, I think Cheryl's questions and Vanessa's, I think were both designed, and tell me if I'm wrong, they were designed to clarify some stuff that just wasn't covered because of these other reasons. So.
All right, I just want to apologize if there were no explanations on the warrant articles. I try to go through these processes and make sure that we're at least meeting the minimum statutory language, okay? So if it was unclear at that time, that was entirely my fault, because I was the one who pulled together those slides and tried to anticipate what was needed per statute, just to kind of check that box off and make sure that it was done correctly.
Yeah, and in fairness to the school board and to you doing that at the last minute, somehow it got missed for the school board realizing that they needed to present the money warrant articles. So they hadn't prepared. And again, not a fault situation, not anything else. It's just what happened.
Yeah.
And the school board didn't take on getting it ready. I called up Tom 2 days before the meeting and said, you know what, I'm worried we won't pass, that we'll have an overturn of our support contract if we don't have this done right. Please check.
So can I interject? It sort of leads me back to my comment about, if we recap the meetings and stuff, this is Moira's first year doing this, you know what I mean? So she doesn't know what the expectations are.
Right.
I didn't know I was supposed to explain
Yeah.
more. I had no idea.
And you wouldn't have known. And it's not, so I think, the way that we could help the school board representative would be just an overview before the meeting. Hey, this is the expectation. This is what typically happens, and because things do get lost. People, just a lot of things get learned by osmosis or doing it.
Well, again, the guidelines thing and having a list will help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't recall who it was I had a conversation with who it was I had a conversation with. I'm a little tired. But I spoke to them and I told them, I said, so one of the things that I wanted to, that I forgot to put in the notes here was the templates for each meeting was that, so our first meeting, it's great, you get the agenda and you go through it. But, at that meeting, what's going to happen? We're going to elect the chair, and then the chair is going to take over the meeting, and then the vice chair is going to be brought upon and voted upon. And then we have discussions about the, initial calendar and that kind of stuff. Then the second meeting, this is the objectives that you're looking to meet. And then the third meeting, and then when you get into these meetings, you're going to expect them to be doing these questions. And then the next meeting is basically just done by the admin. We call it, the admin's there and they're answering the questions. I remember when it was my first year doing it, it seemed really straightforward, but on this side of it, I'm sitting, every time I'm doing a meeting, I'm like, okay, is everybody going to be okay with what's going on? Reading what has to be done. So just, I don't know, book of knowledge about what goes on at these meetings.
Can I make another comment? I think it's best practice. And I mean, I don't know if you guys decided every year as a committee before the public hearing, but I think it would be best practice just to automatically, when we announce it, announce a meeting after. You know what I mean? Because I think, to me, it's important if the public has additional questions that we choose to want to address or anything like that. A public hearing is an important part of the process. And, there may be things that we feel like we need to discuss as a committee after as well. So we don't have to have the meeting if there's nothing to discuss, but if there's anything that is presented to us that we want to discuss, we can call a quick meeting. But that's just my personal opinion, obviously, but.
Sure.
I would agree, and I think these guidelines that Tom sent are really good. It does help define the process. I did go back and looked at videos of previous public hearings from 2020 and 2021. I didn't look any farther back, but I've lived in this town for 36 years, and I probably attended 30 public hearings. And while we don't have videos that far back, because I don't know that they invented video at that time, there have always been questions allowed. People would ask questions and the chair would entertain questions. It was just what happened. Nobody, I don't think, thought about, are there guidelines or does this meet any legal requirement? It was just historically what happened. And, it's been pointed out that that's probably not the best procedure. I think we want to follow. We certainly don't want to get in trouble with the state or have someone, question what we did. We wanted to be open to the public, but we did not follow the guidelines. We could get called on that. We don't want that to happen. We want to be responsive. So I think by doing this and explaining, what the public comment is for at the beginning of the public hearing, what the guidelines are, and then, as Vanessa said, have a meeting afterwards. And the purpose of this meeting will be,
Yep.
Of course, the situation we're in now, we don't get a lot of people there, but people may be watching at home, and that's where they get their information. We want them to get the right information. We don't want them to get misinformation. So it's
Right.
in our interest as well to make sure that things are spelled out very clearly.
I would just like to point out, we are approving. We have a member tonight and we had a member at the hearing. Right? We have a member out there.
Yeah.
That's 2 for 2.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Right, yeah.
Is that a voting
I want to
member?
add that at the end of that public hearing, I think we were all kind of just exacerbated, just like, I made a motion to adjourn, and I shouldn't have done that. You should have declared the public hearing is now closed.
Honestly, I did not realize I had to
Yeah.
do that.
See,
Yeah, so
again.
And it wasn't on the agenda.
Well,
So
and
in-
it's all in, again, all this stuff refers back to parliamentary protocol and RSA, and
Yeah.
it's all there. So we shouldn't have to document it. But I think anybody who assumes the role needs to familiarize themselves with how things should go. That's,
it just makes you feel more comfortable too,
Yeah.
if you have guidance, than to be up there.
it was just awkward silence. I'm like, motion to adjourn.
Oh, all right. So, that was the end of the discussions. So, public comment.
I wanna go
You in the
home.
back. Would you like to share anything with us this evening?
I wanna
Okay.
go-
All right. So, committee comment. I think we
Commented
commented
out.
pretty well here.
Cheryl has
Carol.
one.
Got her hand up.
Of course. Well, I just want to say,
I'm smiling here.
this is my last meeting. I appreciate you guys selecting me to fill the vacancy. I will not be running.
I was going to ask you if you were going to. Okay.
Retirement is looking very, very nice.
Good for
But,
you.
I think, pretty much the year went well. Appreciate everybody's cooperation. And wish you all good luck. I'll see you at the deliberative.
All right, thank you.
Bill,
Cheryl.
Thank you,
that's a fitting end to your career on. But,
Oh, I got two of them now.
Yeah, she's gonna need it.
Actually, she'll need it for the
Do you
delivery.
want to,
Oh, yeah, you will. That's right, too.
do you want to clarify for the public that our next meeting is the deliberative and give the date and time?
Yes. So the next meeting is going to be the deliberative on February 9th, 2022 in the high school auditorium at 7 PM.
Is there a snow date?
Yes.
It's
March.
the next day.
That would be,
It's
No,
the
I
10th.
thought it
The
was,
next day?
Yes, the next
Is
day.
it- Okay. Just in case, you know what I mean?
snow date would be the 10th. All right. So our Nielsen ratings went up. All right.
Make a
Motion to
motion to
adjourn?
adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I don't know who got that one.
All in favor?
Done.